And so you're going to be giving us kind of an overview of how social media should work during this pandemic. And I know a lot of people will likely have questions. Just to let you all know, this is being recorded, and you will also be getting the slide deck emailed to you following this. So I really encourage you, if you want to take notes, that's great. But let's take time to really immerse ourselves in this experience that Lindsay's going to take us through. And if you feel like you missed a little something, you can always go back. We'll have that video, we'll have the slide deck, and I'm sure Lindsay will have a way for you to get a hold of her. So without further ado, Lindsay, I'm going to go ahead and have you take over.
All righty. Thank you, ma'am. Today we're going to deep dive into a lot of crazy stuff. I know, 2020 has been wild, insane. Never would I had thought this time last year that this would be happening. But it's definitely presented a lot of challenges to businesses in terms of marketing and social media marketing. And I really wanted to deep dive today into discussing how COVID really impacted marketing in general, how it impacted the way users interact on social media, as well as kind of deep diving into a lot of things I feel like a lot of my clients and a lot of people I see don't know about when they're operating Facebook or Instagram, as to like how the algorithm works and how it ranks people's content. Data-wise. So I'll be jumping into some stats like that, and hopefully you guys will get some good info. So a little bit about me. My name is Lindsay Griffith. I work for Thrive Pop, and we are located right in downtown Muskegon. And I am the creative content specialist. So I manage all of our clients' social media accounts. I write all the blogs. I write all the email content, COVID press releases, anything that's relating to copywriting and creating content that is engaging for my clients is my job. And I currently manage about 40 social media accounts. So my phone it's blowing up, but, it's been crazy. But this whole COVID-19 crisis, I was the one to be on the forefront to get that messaging out there on social media for our clients. Hey, we're either shutting down, we are moving to curbside, we are doing this, selling exclusively online, cleaning this, discussing all the COVID protocols for my clients, as well as, sending out press releases as to what's going on with the business. That's a little bit about me and what I do at Thrive Pop, and I'll let you guys get into a little bit of growth.
And Lindsay, as you go through this program and everything that you're going to be going through, I'm asking that if anyone has a question that you would like to ask Lindsay, feel free to use the chat option. If we do have opportunity at the end where you can, turn off your mic and ask the question directly, we'll also offer that. We also want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we will try to stick as close to the time frame as possible. But again, as you all know, that's why you're here. Grow is a service that is focused on helping cultivate those business owners at various stages of ownership. And so many of you would love to see where you're all coming from. Maybe Lindsay would appreciate that too, in the chat, and just going ahead and chatting in what your company is. And maybe towards the end, we can look back on that and see how this is relatable to you at this time. So again, Lindsay, I'll just go ahead and have you pick up.
All right. Sounds beautiful. All right. So I kind of intend on starting this off on discussing some more like nitty gritty stats and statistics that I found pretty interesting. And obviously COVID impacted more than just social media marketing. It impacted marketing in general. It impacted employment. It impacted all areas of just about every business industry out there. And it really showed businesses and users and just about everyone out there, they have economic vulnerability. So in a second, your business could be shut down. You could be told by the government that, you're not complying with laws and, current rules and regulations. We got to have you move online. We got to have you do curbside, what have you. And all of a sudden at the blink of a hat, your business is no longer what it is anymore. And suddenly, consumers' incomes aren't certain. There was a ton of layoffs with COVID, and, the unemployment is still super high. And, that changes the way that we market when we know that our consumers are either unemployed or don't have the income that they had before. So, creating that online presence is extremely important. And suddenly, I even had clients too that were social media, just solely social media. And at the drop of a hat, they're like, wow, we need online ordering. Like right now, we need to gather all this stuff. We need to get all this stuff together. And it was at drop of a hat. We had to transition people completely online. So it's been crazy, but it's an interesting ride. And I think there's a lot of ample opportunity, especially with your website and your social media strategy working together, being online, because that's what everyone's doing right now. So, not only does your marketing need to continue during COVID-19, it really needs to be ramped up. So, like, for example, web traffic in general is just skyrocketing. So it's about 20% higher across all business platform websites. That web traffic is just through the roof. The number of marketing contacts that when you guys are doing these marketing campaigns has increased over 15%. Consumers are initiating over 34% higher website conversions than they were a year ago. So there's a lot of ample opportunity for you on your social media and your website to increase your product offers, and offer, exclusive things like email newsletter signups or coupons or different ways you can capture leads, because that's where everyone's at right now. So how can your business take advantage? So in terms of social, influencers have been and influencers were big before pandemic and everything, but it really skyrocketed through COVID-19. So 96% of US and UK social media users say they are engaging with influencers more than they were at the beginning of the pandemic. So the use of people who are popular on Instagram, who have influence over their followers, even at a micro level where they only have a couple thousand followers, is huge. And being able to connect with those people and have a discussion about, how can our social media, product offering, whatever we're doing, work with what you got to offer, because your audience is committed to you and I want my product sold to them. So the use of micro influencers has just blown up during COVID. YouTube has actually seen the largest amount of daily interest in new account creation. So that's pretty big. TikTok actually was pretty high up there as well in new daily accounts created. And 29% of Americans were on social media an additional 1 to 2 hours more every day during the pandemic. So that's pretty insane. I know I was on it all the time on Facebook and Instagram and Googling what the heck's going on, especially in March when everything just blew out of the water and we were all like, what? So yeah, with that too, knowing where your audience is super important. So just some quick social media stats to throw at you guys in terms of users and demographics. Facebook is the most popular social media app out of the top 5. That has over 2.3 billion users on it per year in 2020. So that's pretty big. And predominantly Facebook is dominated by females, so 18 to 24. Instagram is pretty high up there too, and that's also female dominant with 18 to 24-year-olds taking up most of the account creation. YouTube, which also saw huge daily account increases, had males 18 to 34 years predominantly on the platform, and then LinkedIn, 575 million users in 2020. And a little side note about LinkedIn, in several of the industries that I've been working in, we have seen the highest increase in engagement and impressions on LinkedIn than we have across some other social media platforms. Some industries, it's still Facebook and Instagram has been where it's at, but some of the industries that we're working in, especially within cannabis or within the medical industry, LinkedIn's just been skyrocketing for us. And that is male dominant. So it's 30 to 64 years old is where they're at. And then Twitter, people are still on Twitter and that's also male dominant. So it's important to know where your audience is at and who your audience is. And then you can kind of tailor your targeting to, which app you feel like your audience is going to get the most engagement out of. So to dive right into it, how to master your social media during COVID-19. So I'm kind of get into the nitty gritty of the data stuff real quick. So that Instagram algorithm, that Facebook algorithm, how does that work? So one of the most common things I get from clients is they're like, why does this post show first? Like, what in the world? How do I get my post to show first for people? How come when I open up my app, either personal, my best friends at the top of my feed, or the business that I interact with most is one of the first posts I see? How can I make that happen for my business? So just to explain it pretty simply, and how it's a big giant data machine that it collects data on us, all the time and everything we do. And every time we like a post, comment, even look at it, visit a profile, it's all housing data on all of our interactions. So how Facebook and Instagram determine how this then ranks its content is that every time someone interacts with your Facebook or Instagram account and or post, it will signal to that algorithm that user is engaged and or interested in your content. So you see a post from a business, or let's say it's a clothing store, for example. You're like, hey, that looks cool. That's a pretty dress or what have you. I'm going to like it. You might notice that then that profile starts to appear more often in your feed. You say, okay, this post is cool too. I'm going to like this. All right, open up my app. First post I see is from that store. And the more that user interacts with that type of content, the more it signals then to the Instagram and Facebook algorithm that is the content that user wants to see. So Facebook and Instagram are all about tailoring the best user experience and showing users as soon as they log in the content that they know that user wants to see first. So when someone interacts with your content via likes, page views, comments, shares, the higher you get bumped up to their newsfeed. So that's why it is so important to focus on getting engagement on your posts. There's a couple different metrics, way you can measure social media success, right? And
they painted
one of the
new flooring. Now they're doing something else.
One of the biggest ones is engagement. Another one that a lot of people talk about is impressions. And social impressions and reach is important. It's nice to see how many people saw your post and how many people, it came up in their newsfeed. But what does that matter when no one's going to interact and or like or share or comment on the post and, work into that algorithm? So engagement is huge, and engagement is what fuels your post to be at the top of people's news feeds. So focusing on the ways that you can get quick and easy engagement is essential. One of the ways that I love to do it for my clients, and we've seen a ton of success with, is going right to the stories. Stories are a quick and easy way to get engagement for your page. And Instagram has tons of fun tools and things you can do within the stories to really make things fun and to increase interactivity. So I really like this example from Later, which is a really popular social media scheduler. They did a little 3-series drip on their stories that was just some fun questions, Would you rather only fly or only drive everywhere? Vote one of these emojis. Would you rather go out or stay in? Live without music or live without TV? And every time that someone would vote on that content, which is fun, it doesn't necessarily create or relate back to their, social media scheduler, their branding or anything like that, but it's fun content that gets the user engaged. When they engage with that vote, it signals to the Instagram algorithm, just like it would, liking a post, sharing a post, commenting on a post, that user is engaged with the content. So stories are a very quick and easy way to increase your user interactivity and to increase that engagement on Instagram and Facebook. And I know Facebook even has a Facebook Stories, and with Facebook Stories too, you can actually post from Facebook Stories to Instagram Stories and vice versa. So you can keep content going across all platforms, especially when people are hopping on and off both Instagram and Facebook. But another fun way we did this too is, so Thrive Pop was starting a podcast, and I was thinking, I want to gauge from my audience what kind of content they want to see from a podcast. What kind of content do they want us to talk about, while also incorporating, the social media strategy that I use to increase engagement at the same time. So in my story, I asked, which podcast topic would you likely want to listen to? I asked, do you want to hear about social media marketing or search engine optimization? A majority of the users said search engine, or they said social media marketing. However, when I used that vote thing, that only increased whoever voted on that and increased their engagement in the eyes of Instagram and Facebook. On average, how long are the podcasts you listen to? Are they long format or short format? And then, they vote again. And then that's another signal to the algorithm that they're interested in what I got to say. What do you want to get out of podcasts? Do you want to get out of advice and marketing strategies, or do you want to learn about different tools and different ways you can apply these strategies? A lot of people said they want to learn about the tools. So not only did I gain insight into what my customers wanted, but I also increased my engagement from my social media account at the same time. So, getting in stories and utilizing those different features within there is essential. And it's quick wins for your social media account, and it's fun. There's fun gifts and cool ways you can vote, and you can have fun with it and post fun polls and, different ways you can gauge, engagement from your audience. But I definitely highly recommend, getting into your stories and getting rolling with posting some content in there.
Quick question, Lindsay.
Yeah,
Somebody is asking in terms for Instagram, what is the dominant audience? Is it males, females, or a specific age group at this point, or is everybody just doing it?
It is female. It is predominantly female, 18 to 25, actually. Same thing with Facebook. It's predominantly female. However, it is pretty split 50-50. There is a slightly higher number of females on the app. The most male-dominated audience is definitely on LinkedIn and YouTube. So depending on who you want to reach, this content would perform better probably on those platforms. And I know some people get confused too with, they think YouTube and they think, I have to have this big video production that is 50 minutes long. And in order for me to get any traction on there, any success on there. But what YouTube really just wants to see is you posting consistent content, much like Facebook and Instagram do. So being able to post content on there, even if it's a short format video, 30 seconds to a minute of what you guys are doing with your business, I definitely think is great. But I would say Instagram is predominantly female. And if you do want to reach a male audience, I would head to Twitter or YouTube or LinkedIn, depending on what you're selling. But yeah, cool. All right. Some new features that were released during COVID-19. So I know it was hard to keep up with what the heck was going on in the world, let alone what's going on with Facebook and Instagram. And it seems like just about every other day, and I'm sure anyone else who works within social media marketing would agree that it seems like every other day they're switching things up on you. But they did introduce some really cool new features that a lot of small businesses can take advantage of. So one of the biggest things that they introduced was the new Instagram and Facebook shopping feature. So this already existed pre-COVID. You could link a shop to your Facebook or Instagram account. But what they introduced is that you don't have to have an external website to do so. So you can totally house your e-commerce alone just on Facebook and Instagram, which was huge because a lot of users suddenly, when they were scrambling to get an online presence, maybe they didn't have money or the time to even get up a website quick. And Facebook and Instagram brought that opportunity to them to just quickly upload their products and sell and ship directly off of Facebook. So that has been a huge, huge thing that they introduced. I know a lot of clients who have taken advantage of that, and it's been very successful. Instagram also introduced easy gift card purchasing. So when you head to your app and you head to the stories, how we discussed all those different ways you can increase engagement with the different polls and buttons and, interactivity things that you can do. They also have DM buttons as well as gift card purchasing buttons. So what you can do if you're a small business is you can link your information to that gift card button via an external website. And then users are easily able to just click that gift card button and they can shop a gift card right from you and support you. Super easy. And then as well as the easy DM button. So when you're making those stories too, if you're not using a more interactive piece of content and you want to drive people to just talk to you directly, they have a DM button that you can throw right in your story that they just press on it and boom, it takes them right to DMs. They could talk to you right away. And that was something new that they had introduced during COVID. And then Instagram Reels is relatively new. And that is kind of Instagram's version of TikTok. So they saw TikTok blowing up and they were like, oh, we want to do that. And I believe they had attempted to buy TikTok and TikTok said no. So they said, okay, well, we'll do TikTok, but we'll do it, exactly the same, but a little bit different with Instagram's own little spin on it. So what they did was they created Reels, and Reels are essentially the same. You could add music, audio, promote different products on there. And that has seen some success, though I think they did that a little hastily because they thought TikTok was going to get shut down and get bought out. And then it turns out it wasn't gonna. So they're kind of competing, but TikTok is kind of owning that space right now. But that opportunity is on Instagram. And it is nice too, because you can post to TikTok and then take that audio or take that video and then post it to Instagram Reels as well. Especially if you have a large Instagram following that is heavy on video content. I think that's a great opportunity to get up an Instagram Reels and see what you can do with that. Like that. All right. So another thing, and this was important pre-pandemic, but it is extremely important now, is building your Facebook community. So I don't know if you guys all remember the huge Facebook data breach scandal and the Facebook trials, and that was wild. And everyone kind of looked at Facebook and said, okay, you're selling my information. My information is not so secure on here. What are you going to do to make this a better user experience? And Facebook decided to say, we are going to pull away from ads. We're going to stop selling your information to advertisers. And we're going to focus on ways we can make the experience more human and less about Facebook, which still is about Facebook in their eyes, but they're trying to steer us in a different direction. So focusing on ways you can build your community within Facebook is huge. So creating, tabs within your Facebook page for community. So let's say you are, like, for example, we work with a bariatric surgeon, and on his Facebook page, he has an exclusive tab that's just for patients only. And within this tab, it's an exclusive group. They can approve or deny whoever gets to join this group. And people can share, bariatric recipes, their success stories, really interact with each other for support or guidance during the bariatric surgery process and their post-op process. So Facebook groups are just huge. And being able to centralize your customers and or your fans into one central location where they can interact with each other and be your brand campaigners and talk about you and keep word of mouth going within the people that support you most is very important. And this is also cool too, is what you can do with these exclusive groups is you can lock them and make it, something that they either have to sign up for, or, you have to get their email address to join the group. Or anyone who joins the group will get, X coupon off, or will get, exclusive access to this and this and this. But Facebook groups are huge right now, and they were huge before, but being able to centralize those people into one location during the pandemic, especially when people are wondering what the heck's going on, is a great way to just keep people connected and keep people discussing, what's going on in the world, even during this scary time. And one of the industries that we work for, so we work with Muskegon Civic Theater, and the entertainment industry was one of the most affected during COVID-19. So not only did they have to shut down, there's no way that they can perform theater unless it's a virtual show. And they really struggled with that for a long time. Suddenly we have to scramble and coordinate how we're going to move all these shows online. How are we going to structure ticket sales? And how are we going to get the actors on board? So what we did is we created an exclusive Muskegon Civic Theater Facebook group that all the actors, all the staff members, anyone who's a part of production, lighting, costume, everything, all in one centralized location that only they can see. So within this group, they're able to talk about, hey, are we going to get on that Zoom link tonight to rehearse Mamma Mia? Are we going to, meet, 6 people at a time, in the location, just socially distance, and see what we can do practice-wise. How do we promote each other or keep in contact with each other too if we're not participating? How can all these volunteers, continually still interact with each other and stay connected during this time? I mean, this was a huge thing for them. And I think a lot of businesses could benefit from creating, exclusive pages either for their customers or for their employees, especially if you're at a larger scale and you have a lot of volunteers or you have a lot of employees that interact with each other on a daily basis anyway. I think a centralized Facebook group is not a bad idea. Go live. All right. This one is kind of scary for some people. And it was scary for me at first when I started, and I would hold up the camera and say, Lindsay, you got to do a Facebook Live at this and make sure your face is in it. You'd hold up the camera and you'd be freaking out and all super nervous. But just taking the time to do it and face your fears, and you get over it. And then all of a sudden it gets really easy. So I super stress the importance of doing a Facebook or Instagram Live, and not just because it creates, it's a good thing for you to get your face out there and get your name out there, but that really plays into that Facebook and Instagram algorithm. So when you start a live on either or platform and you hit that live button, a notification gets sent to your audience, like your whole audience saying, hey, X group is going live, you should join them. Then they get hit again. While you're doing the live, if it's a long format live, which in like 5 to 10 minutes, they will get another notification sent to their phone and or computer that you are still live and that you should totally tune in and you should be commenting and asking them questions and interacting with them. Then once you end that live, a notification gets sent to your most engaged audience members on your page that that live has ended, but you should check that recap out. So you're able to, once you end that live, post that video up, save it. Usually when you post it, what you can do is you'll hit save video at the same time. So you can then use that content for YouTube, podcasts, what have you. And, being able to post that and get that out there and you hit that audience 3 separate times in just a short little 5-minute span is super huge. And not any other like tools you can really use that will get you that engagement that quickly or get you in touch with your audience that quickly. So I really stress you, taking the time. I would make it a goal actually by the end of 2020 to do at least one Facebook or Instagram live for your business. And this is also a good opportunity too, to discuss what you guys are doing for your audience during COVID-19. So for example, if you are, you guys are currently doing curbside delivery or you are accommodating people by ordering online, or if you do have in person, how what your cleaning protocols are and what your social distancing efforts are, and being able to even do like a live Q&A with your users to say, how do I come pick this up, or how do I do this or that, and being able to, discuss what you guys are doing with COVID during your Instagram or Facebook live is huge. And I definitely, it's a nerve-wracking thing at first, but you get comfortable after a while, and it's just something you got to kind of push yourself into, but it is highly rewarding, and you will see a ton of social media success if you continue doing that. So would definitely recommend. Know the difference between the ads. So this also is a huge question I get a lot. I get this all the time. What is the difference between boosted posts and a Facebook ad? And they're not all too different, but they do accomplish 2 very different things. So as you know, the engagement is extremely important on your post, and those engaged people are the people that get to see your posts. So Facebook and Instagram only show your post to that top 1% to 2% of people that are engaged with your content. So when you use these ads or these different forms of ads, you can reach either more of your current audience or reach an entirely new audience. So with boosted posts, it may increase your reach. And what that does is it pushes your content out to more of your current followers. So if you're doing event marketing or anything like that, a boosted post actually isn't a terrible idea, because what that does is it'll boost your event to more people who currently like your page or currently interact with your content that just aren't seeing these posts, or that aren't, super duper engaged all the time with what you're posting. While a Facebook ad reaches an entirely new audience where you can target people by geographical location, you can target them by interest, by demographics. And it's just so far and wide of all the different things you can do with Facebook ads that it is intended to not promote content that is exclusive to your audience. It is intended to get a new audience. So kind of like what an overall thing to remember is that boosted posts help expand your reach to your current audience and page followers. You should use a boosted post when you want more of your current audience to see what you got going on. Facebook ads allow you to reach a new audience and target specific markets. So if you are really out here trying to convert leads and to get new people and to increase your brand awareness to people who do not know who you are, a Facebook ad is the way to go. If you have a special offer going on that is, exclusive to patients or, your current followers, a quick boosted post might not be a terrible idea, but Facebook ads is definitely where you can get in depth, and you can just target down to city, to just so many different interests, job titles, knowing who you want to target with that is great. And knowing the difference between the two is huge. And I know and I tell clients this a lot, is I know Facebook will try and get you to boost more often than it does direct you to the ads, because they find that people will just do a quick, boost this post for $30 and you can reach 10,000 more people. Well, who is that audience? Just random people? Like, Facebook doesn't track, within the ad sense of, who that audience that you want to reach is, what their job titles are. It just says, all right, I'm going to just try and throw this out to more people. Well, that might garner you more likes and comments or whatever, but are they even qualified to begin with? I don't know. A lot of times marketing will say those quick, hey, boost this for $15 and your post can get shown to 2,000 more people. It's kind of speak for Facebook to say that's like a quick cash grab essentially. And it tricks a lot of business owners. And what they'll do is, across, a million businesses across the US, and they're all spending $15. Well, that's a lot of money. So, knowing when to boost your post and when to not, and when to do a Facebook ad is extremely important. So just remembering that, your boosted posts just get showed to, more of your current audience, while Facebook ads is great for reaching new people. And next, so creating content that resonates. So I'm a firm believer of quality content over quantity of content. You can put out 1,000 posts a day, and what does that matter if no one is going to interact with that post? You could have 1 million followers on social media, but what does that matter if none of them are engaged with your content? So creating content that resonates with people and that gets users engaged is the way to social media success. So I know a lot of people get caught up on vanity numbers, my page has, 15,000 users, but you only get 30 to 40 likes a post. Well, that shows to me that the audience is extremely unengaged with what you got going on. However, we'll have profiles where they only have 4,000 to 5,000 users and they get a couple thousand likes a post. Well, that means so much more than having 1 million users where nobody's interacting. And I kind of use the example too, would you rather have, 100 followers that are all qualified buyers, or would you rather have thousands of followers where you have none? So creating that content that is exceptional, that is going to get your users engaged, is critical. And taking the time, not just pushing out whatever, whenever, is very important. So when you're creating that content through, the eyes of COVID-19 and, what kind of content resonates with people, being ethical is extremely important. And being ethical is obviously, it's always important, but it's a very scary time right now, and people are pretty terrified of either, their job status, what's going on in the world. And exploiting people's fears is no way to make sales, and it's no way to get follows and to get new engagement. People see right through that. And if you continue that behavior, you start to lose respect within the industry. So, don't exploit people's fears. Be transparent completely on how COVID has affected your business. So I know, I have a retailer who their whole supply chain just got all messed up throughout COVID, and they couldn't provide to their customers, exactly what they needed at the time that they needed it. And they had to be transparent and say, there's nothing we can do about it. It's coming from overseas and the supply chain's all backed up. And, they had to do a big announcement, to say, hey, these parts are not going to come in time. And people respected that, as opposed to them leading them on and saying, we might get it, stay tuned, pay up, because it might be coming in. And they had to be transparent that, things are different and you might not get what you need, but, people respected that more than you trying to lead them on and, get their money. And also being there for your customers. So being there, available via DM or just online and social media in general, to say, I know it's a scary time, but I want to know how my product or service can benefit you during this time, and understand, your clients' fears and what's going on right now. And considering that when you're creating this content is extremely important, which kind of brings me to this. So kind of examining your 4 P's of marketing through a COVID lens. So, the 4 P's of marketing are product, place, price, and promotion. And those always stayed the same throughout our whole lifetime until 2020. And then we had a once in a lifetime thing happen. So being able to reevaluate this and say, okay, my product or service, Does my product or service serve my audience during COVID-19? Is my product or service something that is essential to clients to survive or to pay their bills or to live their day-to-day life? Is it not? And if it is not, how can we properly market to show that need and or to be transparent with our clients that, we aren't essential, but you still want us and create that need psychologically while also being ethical. Place. Is my product easily accessible during COVID-19? So did you have that online presence when everything went down? Does your store and or your building have the capability to do curbside pickup or being able to have Zoom meetings like how we're doing now? How does your place of business affect your marketing strategy? And how does that fit into your overall COVID strategy? Price. Can consumers afford my product or service during this economic crisis? So, if you were selling more high scale items before, that was not a necessity. This, might be coming into issue with COVID-19 because people are unemployed and, people aren't making as much money as before. And people are also scared to spend their money right now too. So, how does your price affect how your product is selling during COVID-19? And that's not to say you have to cut price or, do anything that degrades the value of your product or service. However, being able to know to effectively communicate that, while your price is staying the same, the product or service is still necessary. And then promotion. So will consumers, buy into my marketing tactics as they had before COVID-19? So, looking at your overall marketing strategy and, seeing what you were doing before for, all of 2019, and you were like, okay, this was working, but maybe it wasn't. And this was working, but I don't know about this. Taking a step back during COVID and saying, okay, let's reevaluate our business's marketing strategy as a whole. How do we move forward into 2021 with COVID in mind, and also knowing the strategies that we had in 2019 and how those worked and how we can adjust those to fit COVID-19 and, do it through a COVID-19 lens. So, being able to reevaluate these 4 Ps and to understand your business through these, 4 essentials of marketing through a COVID-19 viewpoint is going to be essential too as a part of your overall marketing and social media strategy.
Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah.
I know you're coming towards the end of your presentation, so I just want you to know there are a lot of questions.
Oh, all right.
So
I'm ready.
I want to make sure we get to those as well.
Yes.
But let's get to your key takeaways.
Sweet. All right. Well, key takeaways, just understand how that Instagram algorithm works and understanding, how it ranks content and push for that engagement and, focus on building your email marketing list, engaging with your audience, and readjusting your social media strategy, overall is really going to take you through the end of 2020 into 21. And things will get back to normal eventually. And, being able to adjust and be adaptive with your marketing is really essential to succeeding throughout COVID-19. And it's a crazy time, but we'll get through it together. So ThrivePop is currently, I'll just get into ThrivePop's thing. So ThrivePop is currently offering some free resources during COVID-19. So we want to help businesses regardless of, if they have income or not to succeed through this pandemic. So currently we are offering free COVID-19 press release statements that I will personally curate and write myself because I am the PR copywriter. And then free COVID-19 social media statements. So what is your business doing during COVID-19? Do you want to carefully craft a message that is prominent on your social media platforms about how your team is adjusting? And you can get all this, all these resources at info.thrivepop.com/resources. And then you guys will be getting this presentation and the recording after too. So don't feel like you have to quick jot that down or anything. And then we're also here to help you generate some new ideas. Maybe you can't do in-person business anymore. Well, how can we pivot your presence online? And we're going to offer you guys a free marketing brainstorming session. So you'll sign up with us. We'll do a Zoom chat and we'll get on a Zoom call or a Google Hangouts meet or whatever you're comfortable with. and we'll discuss, possible, what's going on with your business and how we can pivot that marketing into 2021. So you can get that at info.thrivepop.com/brainstorm. But yeah, thank you for joining me. And I am open to some questions.
Well, quite a few questions. And if we could, I don't know if Isaiah has the opportunity to open her mic, but she does have a question in regards to doing online gaming, and they want to learn how to utilize as many media sources, post one video or topic once instead of having to post the same thing on every single platform. Is there one that you use that can, one post and it goes on everything?
Yes. So there's a couple different tools out there. I really liked Later, and Later is a pretty prominent social media scheduling tool where you can schedule videos, IGTVs, images across several different social media platforms. I believe the only one that I have yet to find to schedule like YouTube posts to, I haven't seen anything out there that's really, really great for that. That's something you kind of have to get in the app to do. But in terms of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and LinkedIn as well, Later is a great social media scheduling app. We use Sked Social, and they're based out of Australia. But what they do is if you're the marketing person at a company and you need to get posts approved before they go out, or approved by a client or approved by a higher up, whoever's going to be editing that social content, Sked Social has the ability for you to approve or send a preview link to the post that you've scheduled to whoever, and then they can either hit approve or deny on the post. So, and when they hit deny, it'll ask for comments, and they can ask, let's switch out this image, or let's change this verbiage, or what have you. But we've had a ton of luck with Sked, and Sked's been really cool with the approval tool, because we want to make sure all our content is approved by our clients before it goes out. And I know both Sked, Later, and HubSpot. HubSpot's also another one, CRM platform that we use for all our sales management, as well as some social media posting as well. I know those are all relatively inexpensive. So it's definitely affordable for the average small business owner to get either of those social scheduling apps, and they are a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I recommend those.
Suggestions to get more viewers to follow you.
More viewers. So if we're speaking of like YouTube or even like Facebook, but I know YouTube hashtags are very prevalent. And updating your content pretty regularly is very prevalent in YouTube's eyes. So for example, a way you can increase your viewers on YouTube is YouTube likes to see an upload once a week. Like it, depending on the format, what have you, they like to see an upload once a week. They like to see you posting consistent content. And when you're doing that, it's going to bump up your posts and your captions into the top of people's searches. So definitely posting consistently on YouTube is very important, as well as making sure that you have all the proper hashtags within your meta description of your YouTube. So what I do regularly for my clients is what we'll do is we'll post a YouTube video with, the hashtags, everything, the description all set up kind of from like an SEO standpoint with the keywords kind of jammed in, the content of the message. And then we'll come back and we'll refresh that content too. So I'll go back to older videos. I'll add what I know is a newer relevant hashtag, or I'll change hashtag order, or I will refresh that meta content in the description. And that has just like shot views up tremendously. We did that for, we have a client within the cannabis industry, and we did like a YouTube refresher where I went through all their videos and added up-to-date hashtags and up-to-date descriptions. And it shot their viewership up by like 300%. And it got one of their videos viral to have over 200,000 views. And unfortunately, in cannabis, you can't monetize those views because it's legal. But when you guys get to that level, you can turn on your ads monetization, and then you can start to see some money rolling in too from regularly updating that content. So, yeah.
I use Stat Story too. Sometimes your brain just doesn't work. I don't know if you've heard of Stat Story, but it gives you hashtags. So you say something like restaurant, and then it'll give you 15, I think is the top for free. And if you go to premium, it's like 30 hashtags. I had heard that in terms of hashtags, like 11 is usually the soft spot, no more than 11. But that may be something that many of you want to consider, because if you have the free option, and like I said, our minds are all gucky right now because of to kind of think of those hashtags. You need a little help. It's like thesaurus.com, right? Another question here for you, Lindsay. You talked about how to reach men on LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, on Instagram. How do you reach them in LinkedIn and YouTube, or even Twitter? Because we're seeing the growth there.
So hashtags are also pretty prevalent on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. It's pretty obvious, and that's kind of like Twitter's main way that they show people content is through hashtags. But LinkedIn also is kind of moving towards a hashtag, algorithm movement where you can follow certain hashtags or you can promote certain hashtags in your posts. So if you're looking to reach a new audience, on LinkedIn and looking to reach that male audience, I would think of associated keywords for your business. So let's say you sell insurance or something, and your targeted keywords are commercial insurance for small business, or life insurance, or this or that, and those are target keywords for you and they're pretty popular. Begin incorporating that into your social media posts on LinkedIn. So ensuring that you're hashtagging every time on your LinkedIn post is pretty huge for reaching an audience, because you as a user too can follow hashtags. So me working in marketing, I will follow hashtag social media, hashtag marketing news, hashtag new blogs. I also work within cannabis, so I like to, keep on tab a lot of cannabis tabs. And that would be the top way. I would say that would be really good for getting some higher engagement on LinkedIn. And it is, once again, predominantly male. So, using those hashtags will just naturally garner a higher male audience to begin with, just because that's the amount of users that are on there. But definitely, taking advantage of LinkedIn hashtags, as well as you can optimize your profile for pretty much like SEO for your LinkedIn page. So if you Google, like LinkedIn SEO tricks, I think LinkedIn even has its own article of ways that you can optimize your descriptions, your title tags, the way you can place images and, have your bio a certain way that really helps people when they're searching as well, to make sure that you come up. So, yeah.
I see Elise Welcher has a question. I know, Elise, if you just want to unmic yourself and ask directly to Lindsay.
Yeah. So we've done a little bit with stories in the past. It's been pretty sporadic previously. I'm wondering about, we have a decent sized audience, but not huge. How do we jump in and start doing that on a more regular basis without it being jarring to people? Suddenly start a new tactic and then people just kind of like fall off following you. So is there a good way to do that, or do you just go for it and hope for the best?
It is, I would prefer more like slow roll with it. So I know so for example, we have a client that they all of a sudden were like, we gotta post 4 or 5 times a day, and we gotta post 15 stories a day. And I'm like, well, your audience isn't used to seeing that type of content. We need to kind of gradually move into that. And they were a little hard-headed about that, but we proceeded to do what they wanted to do. And you started to see people trickle off. You started to see people unfollowing when we started to get really aggressive with it without kind of having a steady roll into it. Was pretty rough. So I definitely recommend doing a more slower strategy with that, where you start to gradually, if you're only doing 1 to 2 stories a day, or, 1 to 2 stories every couple of days, that you start to do, 3 to 5, and then start to increase it a little more. And I know that like those scheduling tools that I had mentioned, you can actually schedule Instagram stories to that as well. Okay. So I know, I think Sked is the only one that I know of that will automatically post it for you. But I know that later what you'll do is you'll upload your image or, your design into the Instagram story scheduler within that app. And then you can schedule the time. And what it will do is it'll send a notification to your phone that's like, hey, post this now. And it'll send the image right to you with the caption or whatever was going to be on that. Which I don't know if you use any like social design tools or anything like that, but I even like Canva has like tons of cool Instagram stories templates. You just search Instagram stories on there and they have tons of fun like designs and layouts and things that you can even convert to regular social media posts if you needed to keep a consistent branding across. But yeah, to answer your question, definitely I would just say slow roll into it. Start to introduce those different elements of like voting or, you know, being more interactive to the point where you slowly build that up to where everything you have in your story has some sort of call to action or some sort of interactive piece that you're asking your user to do. So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jamie has a question. I don't know if Jamie wants to unmic herself. Let's see if she does, and she can ask specifically what her question is. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and ask it. Oh, go ahead. Oh, maybe she's not. Okay. Do you have recommendations for someone who's just launching their business and creating social media accounts for it? Also, your tips for describing various services or packages on Facebook. Is there a specific tab for it?
So, well, I guess I'll start with the first part. So it can be pretty daunting if you're going at it alone, if you're the you know, the person running the business and managing it, and also to do the social media at the same time. I mean, social media, it can be a whole job in and of itself. And I think being able to properly schedule things out would be essential, and that's going to save you a lot of stress in the long run. So, for example, you know, if you're looking, you know, you're launching your business and you're like, all right, let's get things rolling for November. What I would do is I would, you know, get up a Word doc and, you know, pick some dates and just start typing out the copy. And if it's all you doing it, you know, just typing out the copy of the messaging that you would like to get out there, and, you know, just typing it on a Word doc, you know, putting a proposed date that you like for that, you know, any like, you know, hashtags or any links to your website or anything like that. And then once you have that done, and that, you know, just sitting down and taking the time to take, you know, 30 minutes to say, okay, I'm going to think about what I'm posting for November. I'm not just going to do it sporadically. I'm going to sit here and think about what do I want to promote in November. You know, being able to sit down just for that little amount of time will relieve so much stress throughout November, because you got your content planned. You know what's going to go out there. You don't have to retype it either. You can just copy and paste it into a social scheduler. Even if you're posting organically, you can just refer back to that document. And, you know, once you have that copy down too, then you can look to the imagery and say, okay, I know I want to talk about this, and I know I want to promote this or this in November. What kind of picture would look cool with it? So once you have the copy down, I find that the imagery that you decide that you want to use with that comes a lot faster. So I would just, honestly, best advice I could say is to just take time, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to sit down with yourself and just sit there and write the copy for that next month's social media. And I know what also helps too is staying consistent with like a drip. So for example, if you're doing insurance, you know, another insurance example, if you're doing insurance, you say, okay, easy idea for November. Every Thursday, I'm going to post a did you know insurance fact. And I can spew this out because I know everything about insurance, and you know that you do. And writing out that content every Thursday, well, you know, planning that out, well, now I already have a post a week scheduled. That was easy content for me to come up with. It was not something I had to come up with several times. I just had to think of a new did you know, but having that series drip going on too, where you're posting consistent content every, you know, Thursday or what have you, get your audience to expect seeing content from you too, and seeing that type of content. So yeah, the best advice I can give for that is just take a second to sit down and really think about that copy and what you want to post. And once you got that down, you're just copying and pasting what you want to post from there. So, and then it relieves a ton of stress because you already got it all planned out. So yeah.
That's great. I want to be able to get to everybody's real quick. Good percentage of engagement based upon your followers, 15, 30, what would you say is a good percentage?
Like significantly lower, actually. So engagement rates are going to be considerably lower than any rate that you're going to measure. So actually, usually anywhere from 4 to 8% is good engagement. Across marketing stats in general, so like for example, like email marketing stats, we consider a good open rate, anywhere between 15 to 20%. Anything beyond that is like excellent. And with that percentage, we then look at the engagement rate and say, okay, X amount of people opened it. Well, X amount of people are engaged with it. And usually a good rate you would consider is about 4%. And that also translates to social media as well. So, it's seen by X amount of, seen by 1,000 people, but only, X amount of people engage with it. Well, you're looking for that sweet spot about 4 to, even if you got somewhere around 7 or 8%, 7 or 8% is very good. If you got 15%, I would love to talk to you. I would love to get all the advice I could from you, because that is a very high number, and managing your expectations with that and knowing that engagement just naturally is it's going to be a lower stat.
Okay. I'm going to have this be a final question. Noelle is asking about your opinion on trying to promote your business by means of tagging local experts or guides related to your product or industry.
Absolutely. That is, so I kind of touched on it in the beginning of the presentation. The use of influencers is major. So especially with micro influencers. So micro influencers are people typically with like 5,000 followers or less. And those are the dedicated experts within your industry and or your top brand promoters. So these people with this smaller audience generally tend to have a bigger push with their own audience. So they can influence buyers who follow them a lot easier than someone can with 1 million followers. So getting in contact with micro influencers within your community that matches, you and your branding and your business is very beneficial. So you want to make the relationship make sense too. Like if you're selling clothes, you don't want to get in contact with a local tech company that can promote your clothes. Like that doesn't make any sense. But finding an influencer or an educational person that is prominent within the community is essential to collaborate on that. I know, like, for example, like Us and Grow, like just being able to say, hey, like, let's do a webinar. It increased your reach and increased my reach. And, we're able to talk to some new people, both of us, from that. So I think that, being able to collaborate with other experts within the industry is huge. And it literally just takes you possibly creating your own content first. Like with this example, I did a social media webinar, I did a webinar like a month ago, and then Rosie from Grow was on it, and she's like, hey, let's do something like that. And, just getting in contact with people that way is essential. So I definitely recommend getting, in contact with micro influencers or people within the community that you guys can both collaborate and get the word out about both.